Okay, why don't we start? The City Council Public Safety Ad Hoc Subcommittee meeting December 20th, 2021 at 4 p.m. is now officially started. Dave, why don't you start us off in the Pledge of Allegiance?
What's this?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns from the subcommittee on the minutes from the last meeting? Did everybody have a chance to review them? I have to recuse myself because I was not present during the beginning of it. The end looks great.
No, I don't have any, no questions here.
Thank you very much. Dave?
No questions.
Thank you. Yolanda, I just asked if anybody, welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
If anybody had any comments on the minutes from the last meeting?
No, thank you, no.
Thank you very much. Rachel, how about you?
No, everything looked really good. Veronica did a great job.
And I was gonna tell you, Don, you didn't make those notes, did you?
No way.
Because they were so
Hey,
precise.
we are recording.
Oh. Great job, Veronica.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I just saw somebody else come in. Hi, Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Okay, guest speakers. Our first one is the city manager, Steve Adams, and the chief of police, Keith Boyd, from the City of Kings. Welcome. Unless Don, you want to start us off on this?
Well, I wanted to thank them both for coming for sure. I know how busy both of you are, Chief Boyd and Steve. It was highly recommended from committee member Delgado that we learn more about your camera system. I did get a copy of the RFP that you used to solicit proposals, but that's about all I could find. So I thought maybe I could look at the website and give us a heads up. And you have a variety of different cameras. I think that's important for us to understand. We have some money set aside and how we might go about lease purchase or some way to incrementally install a system. Our city is quite small, a little more than a square mile, and there are three entrances to our city. So it's pretty compact and pretty manageable, I think, with a camera system. But the committee is really interested, and that's one of our goals, is to improve safety in our town. And we heard great things that it worked for you. So with that, Chief and Steve, I'll let you proceed.
Awesome. So maybe I'll kick it off just with a really brief history and then turn it over to the chief, who's got a lot more technical knowledge about the system. But back in, I think it was 2016, we put together a community task force. We called it our community task force to develop a comprehensive plan to end youth violence. King City's had a pretty significant history of youth violence. There was one year where we actually had the highest per capita murder rate in the state, significant gang problems. So we put together, through this community task force, this comprehensive plan. Actually has 25 different measures. It's based on what's referred to as the PEER model, which is prevention, intervention, enforcement, and reentry. And then we added a fifth category of our own, which was community outreach. And as a result, we implemented that plan in 2017. By the end of 2017, we had the majority of measures implemented. 2017, we had 32 shootings. 2018, we had 1 shooting. And during the last few years, we've only had less than a handful since then. The cameras were a very large part of that, but we also attribute it to the fact that, you know, we used a very comprehensive approach with efforts, you know, in all those different categories of programs. The interesting thing about the cameras and the process is we went through, you know, really detailed process in developing the plan. And towards the end, when we had a lot of draft recommendations, we actually, I actually sat down with the county, helped arrange for a meeting with some ex-gang members, and we walked through the different recommendations with them to get, you know, their input. And some of them, you know, they would say, you know, that's not going to work, and you know, that's not a big deal. And we got to cameras, and the reaction was, whoa, yeah, we hate cameras. We do not like cameras. So so that was pretty significant. And then we started installing the system. We did we've actually done, I think, an RFP twice. We did an RFP for the initial consultant to develop the system for us. And then after, I think it was a couple years, actually the consultant we were using, one of the key staff persons, they went off and started their own firm. And so we did another RFP and got a proposal with the existing firm and the new firm, but we ended up sticking with the same firm we were with. But when when the consultants installed the very first camera, we had 1 camera installed, and we had a shooting right after that, and it happened to be right by where our 1 camera was, and we used that camera and were able to identify the suspect and solve that case. So we were pretty excited that you know, within a week and 1 camera, we had results. The last thing I'll mention, I'll turn it over to the chief. We've been implementing it in phases. So the first phase was the downtown, almost all the entrance and exits to the city, on ramps and off ramps, and then high, you know, crime areas. The second phase was there was a gap in the coverage because we couldn't get the coverage of the transmitters over to the other side of the freeway. So the second phase was kind of a whole expansion of the system that got to the other side of the freeway, and that got the last on ramps and off ramps. And then our third phase, which we're planning on potentially maybe using ARPA funds. We think we've gone through the plan and we think it will qualify. And the third phase is all the schools and parks. I mean, not inside the schools. The school system already has their own camera system, but outside, facing into the parks and the schools. We also have a cannabis industry here. And one of the things they're required to do is pay for installation of one of the cameras on their sites when they, as part of their permit requirements. And so we've added some additional cameras in the industrial area where the cannabis manufacturers and cultivation is. So that's kind of the history. I'll turn it over to Chief Boyd.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us and letting us speak. You know, I'm fortunate. I came to King City after Steve and the city launched this initiative. And so I benefited in many ways because part of what drew me to King City was the path King City was taking moving forward. I saw a city that was engaged in trying to provide a better, safer environment for its residents. And one of the things in my research when I came to King City was reading about the comprehensive plan to end youth violence, and a big component was the camera system. So we have, realistically, what we have is over 50 camera sites when you think about it, and each site has multiple views. There's realistically 4 views per site, but one view looks straight down, so you really don't count that as a view unless you just capture the person who's damaging a camera. If somebody comes and damages a camera and you're lucky enough to get their face on the camera, then you'll see that. But they're strategically placed throughout the city, and realistically, you cannot enter King City or leave King City without being on camera. In addition to our cameras, we have 20 license plate reading cameras, which are just strictly cameras that grab license plates. They're not an ALPR system. They're not connected to an automated searching database that hides that data to anything. They're just a system that captures the plates. But they also were strategically placed throughout the city. An example, in earlier this March, we had a homicide in our city, and the cameras directly led to the solution and identification of who committed that crime. The crime wasn't on camera, but we had a camera right around the corner, both directions from where the crime occurred. So we were able to pick up a suspect vehicle fleeing the scene. And we were able to watch that suspect vehicle go from camera station to camera station through the city until it hit an LPR station. Now we had a license plate for that car. And by having that license plate, then we were able to track that car back to a residence and then start doing our foundation work on identifying who the suspects may have been. And then working from that, that was another piece. But then we also had a witness, we thought, in the area that was critical to that case, who went a different direction from the suspect vehicle, who we picked on other cameras. So a big part of your camera system is finding your gateway areas in and out of the city. What are your critical points that you want coverage in for the city? And then another factor is who views them. Who is going to be able to view the cameras? Is this a camera system that your law enforcement entity, the sheriff's office, is going to be viewing on your behalf? Is this are there people within the city structure who are going to be viewing this? Because there is some confidentiality issues that you have to be concerned with as well. For us, our officers, we can view this from every terminal inside the police department. It's a web-based program. So we can view this from any terminal at the police department. It's through a secure network, and you have to have the access point granted to be able to view the system. So it's not just a general website you log into. They have to have that access point set up. We also have the ability that our officers can view this in the field remotely on their mobile terminals when they're driving through the city. So in the event they wanted to, say, lay in wait, watch an area, they could actually watch an area on camera and then scoop in on that area as well. We have seen in talking with residents of the community, they're very happy with the cameras. They're very pleased with the level of security that the cameras provide them, because it does make our criminals who come to town or those who are looking to do no good, it makes them think about it, because it is very well known we have them. As Steve indicated, we've seen a downward trend in our violent crime. Although we still have violent crime, we've seen a downward trend. Whereas our neighbors in South Monterey County have seen it, in what I interpret to be an upward trend. And they don't have nearly as robust camera systems as us. And I think that directly correlates to the fact that the individuals committing crime, today's era, prosecution, juries, people expect instant feedback. They want to see the face of who did what. They don't like to believe just what you say. And the video evidence that our cameras have been able to provide in collisions, in shootings, and in homicides has been indisputable when it comes to prosecution. Challenges relating to cameras, though, as Steve indicated, is that structure, is building the structure, because you are sending a wireless signal, an RF signal across town. And so we have a number of repeaters that move the signals through the city back to the backbone, which is the police department. Everything in our system is housed at the police department, our server for the system. And it's like, that's the center hub. all the cameras target back their signals to the police department. But we accomplished that through a couple hubs to get through different variances in the city. One thing that we recently took into consideration, and we had to make some, we had to actually cut some trees, is when we put the cameras in, a lot of trees around the city were a lot smaller than they are today, especially in some of our newer developments. And so we had to work with our vendor to come in and identify where we were having issues with signal weaknesses. And we started identifying trees we need to stay on top of for general maintenance to ensure that the backbone that sends signals from different parts of the city to the hub, the PD, that we keep those lines of sight as open as possible for the RF signal so the camera system is maximized as much as possible. The cameras are something we hear about a lot from our when we make arrests. People are aware of them. They're concerned about them. It's one of the things suspects ask, well, do you have me on camera? So it's a known fact. With that, what are your I'd like to ask what some of your questions are, and then I could try to answer how our system kind of maybe might fit within what you're thinking, and I can explain it a little bit better. So do you have a question or two?
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Scott? Sorry, I'm going according to how y'all are laid out.
Yeah, it's on the cameras, what kind of range do they have? How just your average camera, nothing above the ordinary, how far do they shoot?
Like the view pattern?
Yeah.
I would say that we have a good 300 feet on some of the views. I mean, for visual acuity, where you can clearly identify. The license plate cameras are specifically targeted for the license plate to pick up the reflectors, so those do well. But we get a good image, I would say, up to 300 feet, where you're going to be able to identify color of clothing, because they're color cameras. So you're going to be able to identify color of clothing, what people are wearing, what they might have with them. If it was a car, what color of the car. You can get a lot of distinguishing factors to help you.
Okay, great. But 300 feet, that's half our town. That's big. King City's a lot bigger than when I used to sign up as a seasonal firefighter every summer on Canal Street.
Now, you're not going to make out a person's face at 300 feet. The difference is you're going to be able to say, okay, now I have colors, because then we move. A lot of what we do is the legwork of, okay, a car is moving west, and we follow it to the next camera, and we see if we can get a better angle to then zero in on defining who that person was, who, let's say, was at that 300 foot, which was critical in that homicide earlier in the year. We had a skateboarder who we picked up at a distance, and we were able to follow him in a distance. We had enough of a clothing that we ended up seeing him on another camera. It was the same clothing, and now we had a face, and it was a lot closer image. So we were able to put it all together.
Okay, yeah, that was the next question. It's at 300 feet, you should be able to differentiate something on a sweatshirt or maybe not so much a ball cap, but seems like everybody's wearing something with some type of identification on it. No, it sounds good. I'm happy to hear that your little town has turned the corner. Good, thank you.
One of the things we don't have that we've been looking at is there's particular software that allows the officers to actually do a search for, whether it's a vehicle or a person or whatever. And so the system goes through and pulls out whatever you're looking for. Right now, they have to do that manually, so it's a pretty tedious process of going through. But I know the chiefs mentioned they have mixed feelings about it, because sometimes going through that tedious work stuff, they identify stuff that they hadn't, they weren't even looking for that's helpful. So there's some pros and cons to that, but that's kind of one of the upgrades that we're at least looking at.
And we store 30 days of data at any given time. So our system holds 30 days of continuous recording from every camera in the city. And then what happens is if we have a crime, we go back and then we'll take the snippet of what we need and we'll permanently store that into evidence. So that way, because the system, you think about it, our database is a lot of terabytes. And when you think about high quality HD video, now it's not recording the camera all the time, it's motion activated. So when it picks up motion, then it turns on and it starts recording, and it records, and then it records for a period of time after the motion's gone. So when we look at the camera, if we look at a run of say an hour period of time, we'll have dark blue where there's video and gray where there's nothing, there was no motion. So it's just a gray, it doesn't record during that period of time. So the system itself has the ability to differentiate between motion and non-motion. And as Steve indicated, there are many different programs out there that use artificial intelligence that, based on factors and parameters you put in, well, you say, look for a white truck or look for a gray sweatshirt, and the system will do a lot of that work for you. I'm mixed feelings, because we've had a lot of success with just the grunt work of being labor intensive and looking at video. But I also take into consideration, I've seen a lot of agencies that have had success with using those systems that do the auto searching. So there's variables there, but that's those types of advanced technology for that auto searching, it adds another price factor for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dave? Sorry.
That's okay. I'm just listening. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a system that's working for the city. A crazy question I have is, we know why you got into this, because you want to improve the situation that you have. And now that you're in it, I don't know how long you've been in doing this. What are the results? I mean, have you gotten the results that you set out to get as far as the improvements that you see? And if that's happening, what are you learning? And if you're learning, is that helping you to reach out to your community when it comes to crime prevention? Thank you.
Do you want to answer that, Steve, or do you want me to?
Why don't you go ahead? Maybe I'll add something. But.
So, as Steve indicated, in 2017, we had 32 shootings in a city of 13,000 people, roughly. That we're talking about a shooting every 10 to 12 days, which is a lot occurring. The next year we had one, and then we went into a period where we had nearly 2+ years without any shootings. Then COVID hit, and we've seen a little uptick. And what we've been able to do is we have, over the last 2+ years, really increased our community outreach, because that's the next part of solving crimes. Is the cameras open the door to building trust. They create transparency. They create a proof that you're committed to using all available tools to help make your community safer. And now what we're able to do is show that we've had results with the cameras and with the legwork of law enforcement to solve crimes. And now we're able to start really emphasizing and working on a community engagement process to increase trust with the community. And what we're seeing is we're seeing members of the community now coming to us today that we weren't getting in years past, and willing to be witnesses, and willing to report crimes, and willing to tell us about what's going on, willing to say, hey, maybe do you have a camera in this area? This would be a good area. So members of the community are now identifying and helping us identify areas where they think we need to be aware of some things that are going on, because people are, it's not like you don't know where the cameras are. If you look, you can see them. And people are where we've seen an uptick in our recent crime is in a neighborhood where we don't have a lot of camera access. And so we'll adapt to that in our next, but there's a park in that neighborhood. And so we're going to get coverage as we move forward in our next phase, as long as we're successful in our next phase, to get some camera into that neighborhood, which will significantly benefit us. So I think it has opened doors for us that had we not seen the cameras help us reduce crime, I think it's opened doors for the police department in ways that we couldn't have opened without their support.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. We had a real problem before about nobody coming forward with any information. So like the chief said, I think it's been huge for them to see the
I
police
turned off the
department's
heater. Would you turn it on?
effective now. And as I mentioned, the plan, we had a big part of that was community outreach to address that issue. And so kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. But anyways, there's kind of two objectives of the cameras, one as a deterrent and one as helping solve crimes. So we know they work because they have played an instrumental role in several, incidents we've had. It's hard to be able to find specific evidence to determine how much of it is a deterrent versus all the other things that we're doing in our plan. But I mean, we know it's a deterrent because, we've had, some of the detective work on the police department, they've monitored, Facebook pages of gang members where they actually posted pictures of the cameras saying, something to the effect that King City's, got cameras now, we gotta stay away from there. So the other thing I wanted to throw in that's kind of a partnership with the community, and we were actually working on it today, we're going to be launching a new program to provide $200 grants for any residents that install their own camera systems. And that's been kind of an interesting partnership because anytime we have an incident that isn't caught on the city cameras, the police department will go out and scan the neighborhood and try to find residents that have their own camera systems. And if we can get the incident or something close to it on a private camera, it can give us, some clear evidence of, the vehicle or the individual. And then what they do is try to track their path after the incident until it gets on the city camera. And then that's when we can get clear shots of a face or a license plate. And so that's another area where the community comes into play that can be a key component to this, kind of partnering the city's camera system with private systems. Our community has been really supportive of it, as the chief mentioned. But a lot of that has to do with the fact of how bad the situation had got. I worked for another community that we put in some cameras, and it was much more controversial there, as far as some people being in opposition to it due to civil rights stuff and things. Although that was quite a while ago, and I think it's more and more accepted now. Because I think people realize there's so many private cameras out there. Most people are on cameras, some kind of camera, no matter where you go. But anyways, that's something to keep in mind. You definitely want to kind of gauge the community's opinion as you move forward.
And another thing to add is every time we've had an issue where a camera has aided us with a crime, we publicize that. We put it out there and we make it known when we've had a crime or that a camera has helped us come to a solution or resolution. We put that out there so people know. We want people to always be aware of our cameras. We want it to be a known factor. Another point is, and I didn't mention this, is we've also used our cameras to disprove crimes have occurred. We've had some violent crimes that have been alleged to have occurred in our city, and they've given us some very specific timeframes and cars, and then we're able to trace the pattern, and it's like it didn't happen. And so you're able to disprove an accusation as well. And then another thing is where we've seen it, where I personally, it also benefits the city is with civil litigation, city liability with traffic collisions and such. A lot of our major intersections are cameraed, and people want to accuse, oh, there was bad signage, or I didn't see a stop sign, or I didn't see this. But you can have video evidence to show that they just didn't stop. There was no attempt, and so it's nice to be able to. People will say, "Oh, this is what happened," and then you watch the video and you caught them in a direct contradiction of story. So it also aids the city within a sense with a level of also with city liability in some situations as well.
Super cool. Thank you very much. Rachel?
You spoke about the trees covering the cameras. I was just wondering how visible are the cameras to, unsuspecting people? I just wondered about that.
Think about a basketball in size, I would say. Think about a basketball. They're mounted to a utility pole or a pole that's going to provide a source of power. Depending on where it is, we have to identify the pole. Sometimes we have to get an agreement with the owner of the pole or the entity where we're mounting a camera. But it's basically like a ball, about a basketball in size. And so if we don't have signs on them that says this is a surveillance camera, so we're not publicizing the camera being a camera. But as Steve said, the gang members have figured out where some of them are, and it's altered their paths. So, but the average citizen probably is not going to take notice or even realize it's anything different in the community.
Yeah, they're kind of like the ones that we had up at the ballpark and throughout the community on the 4th of July weekend. Thank you. Yolanda? Anything?
Yes, I had a question for, where is the city manager, Steve? I really like that where you said, because I talked to the mayor as well, that that you guys have the cities paying partially for the coverage of the cameras, or was that just something you wanted to implement?
You're talking about the private cameras?
No, the fees, like the cannabis, how you guys were gonna have the cannabis. Do you have all the businesses paying for the camera in their section?
For the cannabis businesses, those all have to install a camera. They have to do two things. One, they have to install their own camera system, their security system, which goes through a review of the police department, and they have access to those cameras when necessary. But then we also require them to install one camera into the city system out on the street that faces the business. And so each time one of those businesses open, we expand our camera system.
But do you have them pay for the service or not?
Not well. Yeah, there's. It really doesn't impact much our ongoing, a little bit, our ongoing cost, but as far as the cost of the camera and installation, they pay for that entirely.
Okay. And do you, in the new developments, are you guys implementing the new development pay for the camera as well?
That's a good question. We haven't. Most of our development under construction was approved years ago before the camera system. So there really hasn't been a major development approved since the camera system's been in. So we haven't, but yeah, in the future, that'll probably be something that we'll want to think about.
And the mayor told me that you guys publicized it on Facebook and everywhere, that you guys were putting up cameras. And the day that you put it up, that day you caught right?
Yeah, the first day. Yeah, as the chief mentioned, we have not made a secret of it. We actually had a big, kind of like a ribbon cutting ceremony to make a big deal about it, get a lot of press. And while over time, I think a lot of folks have figured out where they are, but we kind of play it up every time we install some new ones. And if we can get people to think they're everywhere, that's all the better. I mean, they've been really instrumental in solving crimes, but the primary intent is for them to be a deterrent. So the more we can play it up and have it be a deterrent, that's our real objective, is to try to prevent the crimes in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm. And Chief Boyd, I have a question. The one about the really that camera where you say you put in a color T-shirt and stuff. I found out at Hollister High School they have one, and I was going up to the office and someone met me, so I asked them about their camera system there, and they have that program that Steve was talking about, and they really like it. Say white, black backpack, white shoes, black pack, and it helps them because they have over 1,000 kids. But do we have to publicize it to the community when we post, if we decide to get one? Is that legality or not?
Do you have to publicize that you're gonna get a camera system?
Correct.
Or
I
would
think he's
imagine
talking
part of
about the
your-
posting of the
The
sign.
post, yeah.
I think it has to be somewhere in the city, doesn't it? Or
I think it's just part of the general aspect that you publicize that you have a system in place. I mean, we are gonna down the road put some. I got to talk to Steve about it, but we're gonna put some signs in the city that just talks about the city uses a closed caption surveillance system, and we'll probably put some at the entrance points to the city, and then it satisfies creating just another layer of transparency. And for me, we've had some things ticking up in the city, and we're working really hard to keep pushing them down. And I want to publicize the cameras. I might want to make another big push about our cameras, and another big push that, you know, you're coming into King City, you're leaving King City, we have your vehicle. It's a starting point. We want people to know that we'll do the legwork. We may not catch you on the crime, but we're going to have the information to start us down a path to figure out who did it.
I thought of just a couple other quick things. You mentioned the trees. You know, one of the challenges with King City is it's pretty flat. We have hills around us, but the city's pretty flat. So that does create some challenges. And we haven't had to remove any trees. We just have to keep them trimmed. But we did have to enter into agreement. There's a few property owners with tall buildings, the fairgrounds, Rava Ranches, a building on the east part of town. And so we did enter it. Everybody's been really cooperative. So we entered into like agreements that rent for $1 a year to mount the communications equipment on those buildings. So that's helped a lot. Also, one of the hotels on their signs. That's the way we got over to the other side of the freeway. So that's something to think about, unless you have fiber running everywhere and you can hook into fiber optics. You know, we did that in one location through charter, but it's pretty expensive. So if you can get this communication equipment on tall buildings, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. One quick last question. Who is the company you contracted with?
We work with a company called Surveillance Grid.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you all very much. We really appreciate you coming here and speaking with us and taking time out of your day. City Manager Steve Adams and Chief Keith Boyd, thank you very much. We really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
You bet.
Thank you.
Need anything other information, just let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
You bet, Don.
Thanks. Okay, sorry, that's me. I'm up next. Level 1 private security, an overview of their role in city public safety. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Oh, we have some feedback.
Sorry, 1 second. Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm JT Tomlinson.
Hi.
Tyler Jordan. I'm pretty much the operations manager, and Tyler's the operations captain. My wife is the owner of Level 1 Private Security. Unfortunately, she can't be with us today because we have a 3-year-old that rules our house. Just an overall, we do work with Grid Surveillance Company, which is the same company that you guys just heard about. Warren over there, we've actually went down. We're actually working hand in hand on them with a couple projects for Level 1 to be their central hub for some of the responses for their camera system. We also work with them with the Ulster Police Department, because me and Tyler and Crystal have been what we call the head of security for the 4th of July rally every year, which they do use those cameras for that. They're very impressive. I can't talk enough about them. Going on to our Level 1 private security for the city of San Juan. We've been with you guys now and the community for servicing for, I believe it's now 5 years.
Almost 6.
Almost 6. We started off with Roger Grimsley. Our role at the time was to deter and do door checks of the downtown area of San Juan Bautista, because at that time they were having a lot of burglaries, break-ins. We did a lot of observing and reporting and notifying the sheriff's department as well as Roger of what was going on. When we started, it was pretty much just all the businesses on 3rd Street to the Windmill and then back. And now we've gotten to the point where we're now patrolling the entire city. So the new subdivisions across the street. Go ahead.
All the residential areas of town.
So for being on 3rd Street now to patrolling the whole city has been kind of overwhelming for one person. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot of area to cover. We're not going to be everywhere at one point in time. And I think that we have to remember that is that we're one individual for a whole city. And I wanted to bring that to your attention. We try to do the best we can. We're implementing new equipment all the time. When we signed on, we told them we would have body cams, car cams. We implemented the fully marked patrol vehicle with the light bar and the safety lights on it and stuff, where it's become very utilized when you guys have an emergency and the sheriff's department can't respond. They'll end up calling us out there. With that being said, we started off with one person and then we doubled up on the weekends, meaning there was an overlap shift. So there would be one guard for 9 hours from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then there was another officer that came in at 6 p.m. and worked till 2 a.m. And that was from Wednesday through Sunday. Currently, you have an officer for 9 hours a night now with the changes from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. Monday through Sunday. I'm gonna let Tyler take over a little bit of the conversation before I come back, but that's my update here. Go ahead.
Yeah, he pretty much covers what we do. Along with, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. We also, this year, were by the city council approved to do the administration tickets for firework enforcement. And there has been some talk about moving forward and doing other administrative citations, non-moving violations, stuff like that. We do have the ability to do that. Non-moving violations, traffic, parking citations, stuff like that. Also we do,
Yeah, go ahead.
Our nightly patrols, what we're viewing a lot every night is a lot of parking violations. A lot of parking violations. People park backwards, their front tires to the curb, parked in fire zones and crosswalks, stuff like that. There's been a lot of semi-truck traffic as well, and mostly entering through Monterey Street. A lot of vehicles driving very fast, especially through down 3rd Street and other city streets, running stop signs. These are all, by the way, our monthly reports that we send to council every month. There's suspicious activity, not really anything going wrong, nothing illegal necessarily, but there's a lot of people hanging out at weird hours and weird places, mostly juveniles. But we don't see them doing anything wrong or illegal. It's just weird that there's a group of 5 or 7 of them hanging out at the parks or other areas at night.
And when you say at night,
around, I don't know, between 11 and 2 a.m. mostly.
we've also had, we also took over the community hall. I think it was our 2nd year. And
2018.
in 2018, the council approved us to be the sole provider of security for the community hall because there was a lot of vandalism, a lot of lewd acts going on. And when I say that, the community was coming to the city manager at the time. I think it was before Dawn. I'm sorry. It was Michelle. And what they were finding is that the security companies they would hire would come in there and they would set a specific time that the party was supposed to start and end. And the security company would, once they were scheduled off at that time, they would take off. And then that party would overflow into the community. And then it would become a level 1 issue and the sheriff's department issue. And then we'd have to go in there and assist the sheriff's department in clearing out the streets and clearing out the community hall and then locking it up. And through the course of Michelle LaForge, the ex-city manager, her investigation of the whole security companies, they found out that almost 99% of them were not licensed and bonded or even have the correct licensing. And I think I shared that with Dawn as well. And so therefore they wanted to continue to contract us for that location because of our insurances and so on and so forth. With that being said, we've enjoyed the last 5 years we've been there. We've developed our community, the community that you guys live in as our customers. It's a joy to go out there and service the community. And if there's any questions, we're more than willing to answer them. You're muted, Mayor.
Muted. I can see that. It's right across my screen. David, can you start us off, please?
Not ready to start you off. I'm just thinking about too many thoughts are coming into my mind right now. I really don't have any questions at this point, but I might have if you come back to me. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Rachel?
I have a few questions. I was looking at your level 1 report for November, and what is going on Rancho Way and Franklin Circle? I mean, the vehicles are parked illegally. Do you have any recourse on that, or do you report that to the sheriff? I mean, it was kind of surprising to see how often you guys observe those vehicles parked wrong, illegally.
We don't have the authority to give citations for that as of this point. There is a possibility moving forward that the city council grants us that opportunity to do that. It's definitely a possibility. I know in surrounding cities in our area, they let what is it, Watsonville? Yeah, where the waste management gives out tickets now for parking violations. So it's definitely a possibility that we could do that. We just put them in the reports. Our main purpose is to observe and report, illegal and suspicious activity. It definitely is a possibility in the future moving forward to do something about it. But at this time, we just let the city know. We send them to you guys, or not you personally, but the people in the city, and it's out of our hands after that. But yes, you are correct. There's a huge problem in Franklin Circle and in Rancho Vista development with the parking violations. It's a every night occurrence.
Yeah. The other thing is there a curfew for the young people in town?
I think that I think that question has been asked several times. I believe it's a 10 o'clock curfew, but without I'm going to say the blessing of you guys to enforce that, or the city council, or you guys, or even Dawn. I'm sorry, Dawn, I'm not trying to put you on the spot either. I think that they're the ones that have to grant us those requests so that we can follow through with that. This has been talked about for the last couple of years, even before Dawn, and I'm sorry, I keep saying before Dawn, but they've asked us to do this a lot, but it's never, I know at one time they were working on the tickets and getting them ready for us and stuff like that, but it's never been pushed through, I guess is the question. And I know with COVID and everything that's busy, I get it, you know what I mean? But whatever we can do to help, we're here. We've been a part, like I said, we've been a part of it for 5 years now, almost 6. So I'm sorry I can't answer your question more, ma'am.
Well, I in reading your report that we were given, I thought that you handled the situation with a youth being out and about. I think that just letting them know that you're out there, I think helped. I mean, you know, they maybe they weren't, I don't know. It didn't seem like they were doing anything other than being out late, but I think you guys handled it well, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yolanda?
First of all, level 1, you guys have, I mean, you guys, every hour, minute, you guys have everything annotated. You guys are the best that I've seen in my monthly logs of the reports from that would come to us, the public works, the libraries, the code enforcement. You guys are spot on. Thank you for that. And Mrs. Ponce, I just want you to know I'm not parking illegally on Franklin Circle, okay? I reported, but you know, I've been reporting
Everybody else.
I've been reporting since September and it's still not working because and the reason I do it, and it's not because I dislike these people, it's because Mary just had a back surgery, as we all know, and she's back in the hospital, and she can't walk the sidewalks.
Oh.
That's why I do it, because we have to take care of our people with ADA. And not only that, we have children that ride their bikes. I prefer them riding on the sidewalk, than the streets. That's why I call and complain. But thank you for saying that, Ms. Ponce. And I was going to also ask about the curfew, because I know in San Jose there's a 10. I just can't get over your reports. You guys are awesome. Thank you. I just love it. I love it. Better than anyone I've gotten so far. But no, Dawn, can we do a teen curfew like other cities have? 10 o'clock Monday through school nights, and on the weekend is 11.
Yes, I believe there is a law on the books, and I've talked to the sheriff about it, and I have been unable to get the sheriff to enforce it. We could enforce it through level 1 and be writing administrative citations. One of the problems that I've come across, I'm not sure level 1's aware of this, is we don't have a way of processing them, meaning that we find that when we write administrative citations in particular, we just in the last 6 weeks, got an automated system under contract, so that after 30 days, you know, they go to collections. When you write a parking ticket, it's great, because in order to renew your car registration, if you have unpaid tickets, you have to pay out. But with the admin tickets, it's harder. And so I've hired a company to do that. And so before I talk to level 1 or private security about admin tickets and curfew tickets, I wanted to make sure that I had the back end covered, because we weren't collecting fines. And that's tragic. I'm just stumbling into that after being here for 2 years. So we want to make the system more robust before we implement it, but that's the direction I would like to head. So happy to have private security help us with parking enforcement. We did write 2 tickets in Franklin Circle for parking head-in this weekend.
Oh, good.
Good. I didn't get one, so it wasn't me.
Good. Thank you. Scott?
Let's see. I was just looking
Wait
over.
a minute, Scott, hold on. Could we add those administrative tickets to like their property taxes or to their water bill or something to that, Don?
When we can find a property owner versus a tenant, I think there are some laws there that we can like attach to the fees and fines to the property itself and lien the property. I haven't looked
Perfect.
into it in that much detail.
Thank you. Sorry, Scott.
Couple challenges, I'm sure some of it doesn't seem like a big deal to most people, but I guess in a small town they are. Good thing, starting next month, we're gonna get a dedicated deputy in town, so, and the sheriff promises us he's going to make sure that deputy is trained in doing everything from vehicle accident investigations to parking tickets, so that's a plus. We'll have a deputy to be able to do that. What else did I write down? One of our challenges going forward with these new laws that were dumped on us from the state, as far as the new housing stuff and being able to, stack homes behind our homes and homes on top of our homes is going to be parking. So we may have to be a little bit more lenient on people who maybe aren't parked quite perfectly, because it's not their fault that they moved here because there was housing. And then as far as the sidewalks, Yolanda, I'm pretty sure we have a immunity quote against no skateboards and bikes on sidewalks, believe it or not. So it's like one of those catch-22s. And I'm also concerned about our sidewalks being walkable and safe for everybody. The last thing we want is somebody to trip and hurt themselves on one of our sidewalks, but we are on the town that sits in a fault. Nothing's perfect here. I mean, my house has been crooked forever, and it's built in '85 by a great builder. So just a few challenges we have in the future, I know, but fortunately we have a deputy that should be here and should be helping out. That's all I got. Thanks.
Councilmember Frills, can I ask you a question?
You bet.
When you guys say a dedicated deputy, what does that mean? How many hours is that?
That's, if I may, Scott, or Don, actually, if you want to answer that.
4 10-hour shifts.
Because I've talked to Sheriff Taylor, and this would be I just want to share this with you guys because I have conversations with him probably once or twice a month. And I asked him about this. I said, is there going to be a need for level 1 to be in the city if you have a dedicated deputy there? And he says, absolutely. He goes, we're only going to put a dedicated deputy there for 40 hours a week. Who's going to patrol the rest of that time?
And that's not the sheriff's, privy, that's ours.
No,
so
right.
We would be the one making that decision, not the sheriff. But yeah, we have 40 hours a week, and the way he talked is it's not going to be a set schedule all the time. I know with union issues, they can't move a deputy so many times in a month or in a pay period. But he will move. There will be changes, and we'll add hours regarding, let's say if we have a festival in town or whatever, they've been approved to go ahead and just stretch that out a little bit longer than 40 hours. So that's what a dedicated deputy means. That means if you call 911 and you have a question about something or a problem in San Juan, they're not going to just basically say, oh, Deputy Bob's the one that takes care of that. Call him back in 12 hours when he's on duty. That means a deputy will take that call, as opposed to in the past, in the last a couple of years, somebody would call in and complain about something or have an issue. And they would say, well, that deputy that's supposed to be there this week isn't there, and go ahead and call him next week. And that happened to us. And the sheriff knows that. And he's not very happy with that. As a matter of fact, he's working on that right now. So,
Understood.
So, thank you.
Mhm.
And just to expand on that, a titch, we still need coverage the rest of the time. They'll be here Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think we had the conversation. And then level 1 will be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just like always. Providing the services that y'all provide right now. And nice segue. Thank you very much for the services you provide now. The reports that we get are wonderful. The amount of territory that you cover and the amount of things that you see and report and that can be transferred to somebody else who might or might not be able to do something. Everybody just switched views. Yeah, thank you very much for everything. You mentioned something about grid surveillance, and you have worked with them. That's also the system that the city of Hollister has, correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I think the camera systems we talked about for a long time too. This is not, even before this council has been, the previous administration, and I go back, has asked me to go out and talk to some people and see what they can see what they can provide, and also have them come in and talk. And I believe, I think that I gave some of this information to Brown to give to Dawn. Did you get that, Dawn?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
The biggest question in my mind, and I can talk to Steve Adams in more detail about that, is in talking with a former member of the Planning Commission who's an expert at this, he thought it would cost close to $500,000 to $750,000 to create the camera saturation that King City has. But I think if we start somewhere, we got to start somewhere. And obviously our gateways are obvious locations. And then we would need some historically correct cameras for our downtown, et cetera. But we could do it in phases, a couple $100,000 a year or whatever we can do just to get moving on something.
Yeah, this is actually a really good system that we can talk about in another meeting, but they're totally adaptable and expandable. And the cool thing about Hollister having the same system is that we can work together on comings and goings down 156, which is pretty important. As we have seen on several occasions or several incidences where folks have gone down 156 towards Hollister or come from Hollister down 156 towards San Juan and have been apprehended. So to have part of the system so we can communicate with each other would be awesome. And the way that y'all level 1 private security works with both the sheriff's department and the fire department and code enforcement has been pretty darn good. It's really nice to hear that the sheriff's department and the fire department are calling you for assistance in our quaint little community. Is there anything that we can do for you? How can we help you help us?
Well, we would like to continue our relationship with you guys in regards to all of the service that we're providing and any additional services that we're providing you guys. We have submitted some updated contracts to Dawn. Our amendments to the contracts and stuff. And I think the thing that concerns me is that we built this, when we did this security contract, we did it at a $3.50 basis for fuel. And now we're up to a almost $6 price range. I did submit a updated contract for review to just point out where we're at, how we can structure this to Dawn. And we were told that this might be the platform to present that. And then with that being said, there has been, when it comes to writing tickets, when it comes to the community hall and stuff, our insurance company now, due to this whole change in era,
is wanting us to have an assault and battery charge put on there, especially because we're dealing with the person-to-person basis. So if something happens to any of our staff or for the city, is that we have this assault and battery charge put onto our insurance, which of course makes it go up a little bit more. So we've been asking for a little increase in our service, our fuel services, our fuel price. And then also we're going a lot farther out, and it worries me a little bit that the liability, not having more than just one officer out there, is going to cause us to have some kind of issue, which it has in the past, where we've had the two officers, the one officer, Monday through Sunday, and then the cover officer from Thursday through Sunday. We don't have that anymore. And
sorry to interrupt, especially in these peak times where everyone's home for the holidays and the school's not in session and all that.
The other night we went out with, there was a call from a lot of some of the community has our personal telephone numbers. There was a call that a bunch of juveniles were messing around in the bathrooms there at the soccer field, and six to seven of them to the peak hours. Sheriff's Department was called. They never got out of the car. We rolled up there. We actually got out of the car and we confronted. How many was there?
We talked to 4 or 5 individuals at the time. There was more earlier, but we could only get a hold of 4 of them, 4 or 5.
So we were able to deter that from any kind of mischievous action or activity. But I am asking for a little bit more money, especially at these times.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have anything? David, did you have your hand up? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. One question, I'm always thinking about community engagement. Is there any plans, or do they still do the neighborhood meetings? Is that still going on? Is that something that Level 1 service can get involved with? That'd be kind of nice if we could get our communities, our neighborhoods, I might say, talk about what's going on in our community when it comes to our security. By the way, I want to thank Level 1 Security for all the work that they've been doing. I do feel it's a lot safer here in San Juan Bautista than most other areas. So thank you for that support. But anyway, what about engagement with the community? Anything with meetings like that? You're involved with a community hall. Could you dedicate some time to get the neighborhood to come to talk to you about what's going on in our community for somehow where we can help you do a better job?
Well, I think it comes down to this, David, if you don't mind me calling you that, sir. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I can't read your last name on this little screen, so I apologize. You
want me to say it in Portuguese or what?
When we first started out this contract, they wanted us to be in the background, and I hope that this is going to make sense. They didn't want us to engage in the community because they would feel that we were their law enforcement and not their security department. But with that being said, it has been brought out a few times about engagement with the community, such as doing like coffee with security, or doing, like the sheriffs and the chiefs do coffee with the community. I have no problem doing that. I know Tyler doesn't, nor my wife. We have no problem meeting with our community because at the end of the day, they're our customers. You guys are our customers. And I think that's why we have a relationship with a lot of the downtown merchants is because we're there to service them. Whether we see something or whatever we do, we try to service as much as possible. My biggest concern is that the liability of just having the one guy, because if we are out on the other side of town with no equipment, and I mean nothing, we just have a radio. If we're on the other side at Casa Maria, say, and a call pops off or something goes down on the other side of town, I don't want the community to think that Level 1's not doing their job and they're sleeping, because it has been said before. So I just want to put that out there, But yes, I have no problem meeting with the community members if that's okay with the city council and our city manager.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
Yeah, I have my hands up.
Sorry.
The bathrooms are not being locked at night. I talked to Chris, our I don't know if he's our patron saint or what, but I go, how do you go to the bathroom at night? And he goes, oh, they leave me the bathrooms open over there by the baseball park. They need to be closed. Because I heard Mrs. Ponce say there was an issue, something going on in the bathrooms at night. Is that what it was? Yeah, they need to be locked. I mean, even though he's our patron saint, we need to lock the bathrooms.
A lot of the times the magnet, I believe that's a magnet, it doesn't connect even after you clear it to lock them. So I just want to let you know that.
I thought it was a lock.
They used to lock, if you look at our reports about three years ago, it's when they broke. So yeah, they can't, I don't believe they lock right now. The ones in the soccer field do lock, but those have been left open quite a bit.
Or our patron saint, of course. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Anything else? Rachel, Scott, we're good?
I'd like to ask them a question if that's okay, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
What can we do to help you guys? What can we do to assist you guys more? How can we benefit you guys a little bit more? Go ahead,
Madam Mayor.
I actually have one request. And it's on the reports. Y'all observe and report, and you observe and report a lot, which is awesome because there's a lot going on. And I know we've asked you to, on occasion, to watch certain things or certain sites. Is it possible to get these on a weekly basis so that when something is observed, if it's an emergency, you're calling the sheriff or whomever right away, right?
Yes, if there's an emergency, something happens that needed to be addressed immediately or the next day, no matter what, we call the sheriff's department, and then we follow up with the code enforcement officer, Rich Brown, and let him know the information. And then he'll either request a report about it for the next day or something to that effect.
Or download of our body cams. He'll ask us for footage.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those. Okay, cool, thank you. But like for all of, just on page 1, I mean, you can see BMW.
What month?
Oh, I'm sorry, November.
Sorry, my November is really small for some reason.
Mine too, but I have readers on. You want to borrow them? BMW, white Toyota, whatever, black VW. If we got those until such time where we had a mechanism for actually citing whether it's your company or code enforcement or whomever,
Sheriff's Department.
the sheriff's department, if instead of waiting for a longer period of time, if we can get things like that on a weekly basis, perhaps that would deter some folks if we had a mechanism of fining them or whatever, ticketing them, deterring some folks from continuing doing what they're doing.
I don't think that's out of the question. Currently, right now, we've been talking to Rich and Dawn a little bit about a new system that we're trying to put in place. We just got to figure out the right system that we can either get them to nightly or weekly. Right now, we have the guards actually handwriting all the reports, and then they get turned in to us, and then we have somebody type them up, whether it be one of us or one of the patrol drivers. Anyway, they'll type those up, and that's why it takes how long of it does. And also, that's just what we were asked from the beginning, and nothing has changed since then. No one's asked us to get them in quicker, but I mean, I agree. There's a lot of stuff on here that if it happens on the 1st and you guys don't know about it until the 31st, I see where there's an issue with that. It's not out of the question. We're just trying to internally figure out a solution to do that right now.
Okay.
The biggest thing is having that Wi-Fi capability in the patrol cars. is to be able to push those reports out right as they're done at the end of the shift. You know, a lot of, it's not just, that's why we're working with Grid too, is about trying to boost our Wi-Fi from the car and have something, but unfortunately we're still behind the times. So everything's handwritten.
Okay. That's that free downtown Wi-Fi that we're getting, right, Don? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Also, regarding to the, you just said Wi-Fi, we tried using a hotspot kind of thing, but it has to be in the vehicle, because once we lose, say we're parked at the library and we're writing a report, once we leave there and we don't send it what we have in place right now, it totally messes up the whole report and you lose a lot of stuff, possibilities. So unless we have that Wi-Fi connection in the car, and that's just another expense that we have to do. So, we're trying to figure it out.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, anybody? No. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. We really appreciate all that you do for us and for coming here and giving us an update on what you actually do for us. We appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
And
you.
Michael, I'm guessing is with you guys. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much, guys.
Thanks, guys. Okay. Unleashed dogs, be attached. Don, you're up. Sorry, we're running super long.
Yeah, I did allow 2 hours in the Zoom meeting, so, but we don't need
good.
that much, we don't need that much time. The rest of the agenda is pretty self-explanatory, and pretty much if the committee has questions, these are just some things we're working on. Rachel brought to my attention, I'll say 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months ago, about dogs not leashed and how dangerous that is, especially in the soccer field. And after our last conversation, we started to look into signage and so forth. And I shared the city code with you there in the staff report. And we have the full cooperation and appreciation from the superintendent of schools to post those at the soccer field and enforce in the soccer field. So I had a briefing with code enforcement just today. This is another thing that the level 1 could help us with if people are walking their dogs at night, and they do. But mostly during the day. So this is something that we're putting some attention, some resources towards after it was brought to my attention by committee member Ponce.
Nice. Can we get no dogs allowed also?
Have to make sure, I'll have to see if that's in the code. In this instance, leashing and defecation were in the code, so it was a simple matter.
Sorry, Rachel, specifically for the ballpark where kids are playing ball in there and dogs are in there, whether it's picked up or not, I don't think that's I think that's rather unhealthy. Sorry, Rachel, go ahead.
There is a one sign, no dogs at Abbey Park.
Yeah.
There probably needs to be more. And maybe some at the soccer field, I don't know.
That's school property. Can we, I saw that you wrote a sign for the soccer, Don?
Yes.
And they didn't want any dogs, period, on there prior to this. So can we write? And because that's that's a school property, it's not city.
Right, well, on the first page, I have communication from Michelle Huntoon, the superintendent, who much appreciated any enforcement that we do out there. I had the same question. Could we enforce?
Yeah.
I think with their approval, we can.
Okay, cool.
So there's nothing in the city code about dogs in the baseball field. Those signs were put up by Aroma's San Juan Little League back in the day. So there's nothing in there. It's right here, right? And I run my dog out there and she's healthy. She's not going to infect anybody. And I clean up after her. But we don't have anywhere for anybody to run their dogs in this town. We can't off leash anywhere in this town. We can't run them anywhere in this town. And there's maybe 3 people are irresponsible. You're gonna, I mean, a whole bunch of people got dogs during COVID. And now people are talking about we don't want dogs to I don't know. This is just I get the leash to off leash thing. I get dogs should be on leashes. I get they should be secure. But there's a whole bunch of us that don't are not disrespectful of others and clean up after our dogs. And I'm one of them. So I'm not going to be punished for 4 guys or 4 people. I'm just saying that. So and if we can change the Muni code, if the city council wants to change or add to the Muni code that we're banning dogs from the ballpark, then there's probably nothing I can do about it. But until then, I'm going to run my dog at the dog park, right at the ballpark, and I'll clean up after her.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, there is, people did get dogs during COVID and all of that. And this whole thing about people not picking up after their dogs has been going on forever and ever. I know Tony Bach was always talking about it. And there was always people that said, well, I pick up after my dog, but obviously there's people that don't pick up after their dogs. And it's more obviously than the ones that do. And kids are, playing around that stuff, and it's not healthy. And that's something that we need to think about. I don't know the answer to that because we don't have a dog park. And actually a dog park hasn't been an issue in town except for the last 2 years. I've gone to city council meetings many times and dog park never came up till about 2 years ago. So there's something that the city has to work on. And I think that we need to be conscious of, little kids playing in the park with dog stuff all over.
I agree.
So Rachel, I'm sorry to disagree with you, but the subject of a dog park did come up back when George Diaz and Bob Quaid were on the council, and John Hopper back when we bought that piece of property on off of Washington and Lang.
Yeah, but there was also plans to even have a dog park at Abbey Park.
Yep, but Abbey Park is for ballpark only. That was part of the agreement.
There's a section that's been fenced off
It's
from the
T-ball.
ballpark.
It's T-ball.
Scott,
It's the little T-ballers.
Scott, didn't somebody want to donate some property on the other side when you were on the planning commission as well? And that just like.
I don't remember that, but I know we do have about 3 acres off of Washington Street, and I would love to see it as a multi-use park. And then as back to the whole dog parks, I see kids in dog parks all the time, and we don't have these outbreaks of some type of, I don't know what, some type of infection because of dogs. I get the fact that there's poo in the park and there's poo on the sidewalks. And we do have dogs that run amok. So I just, I'm really hoping we can be able to solve this problem and build a dog park and build another nice little park in town. But till then, and until the city council says that I can't do it, Autumn is going to run at the ballpark. Thank you.
I agree. I think we need a park.
A few years back, the strategic plan committee, I forget which committee it was on that whole thing, but they did, and Bob Quaid was involved in that, design the park for Washington Street. I don't know what happened to that, but that is something that maybe it can be made into a dog park sooner than it could be made into a regular park. because I think the plans for Washington Street Park were a combination of people park and dog park. And since it's beginning to be an issue in the community, maybe something can be done to make a dog park at Washington Park in the meantime. But I'm confused now because of the packet that Don gave us. There is a section here after the page of the communication with Michelle Hutin about, it says running at large prohibited, and it says there on parks. Is that part of the city code, or is that something that is being proposed now?
That's the city code.
So then there is a city code that says no dogs in the park. Is there a difference between city code and ordinance?
No, and now as I read it again with you, Rachel, I can see how you would interpret it that way. It says no owner of any dog shall permit or allow a dog to run at large.
Park Street Valley, well, there you go. And I read that 20 times.
Yeah.
So,
All I read was the 8-foot long leash, right?
yeah, it's pretty, I mean, it's vague, but there it is. Okay. And I have read that. So I apologize.
So it does say the unenclosed or lots within the city, correct? So I would think the parks would be included.
What says park? The street
Okay,
park,
right.
where, place unenclosed.
Well, I'm right there with you, Scott. My German Shepherd, I put her over there in the T-ball because, like you say, where are we gonna pick up after her? Take them. I'm with you. And I'm with Rachel. I can understand both sides.
But we just went from, on the agenda, going from unleashed dogs to dog parks and dog poop. We kind of went,
Okay.
and now we're,
All right.
now we're
So
into it.
noted. Thank you.
Well, we have till January 1st, right?
It's on the agenda for tonight, so
No, to break the law, I should say, because we don't have a
so
sheriff.
I understand that, but we were to talk about it anyway. It's on the agenda.
Right.
Isn't it not?
It
It
is.
is. It's number 5 on the agenda.
Yes. So it's
It is.
perfectly okay to talk about it tonight if you want. That's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. So code enforcement should be enforcing these codes as well. So 5-7-200 says that you can't run your dog without a leash anywhere.
It lists alleys, streets, parks, mostly public properties. So.
If that's what at large means.
Okay,
That'd be a good, find out what a definition of at large.
put your dog on a leash.
Basically.
I'm gonna break the law.
That's nice job, Councilman Friel.
Or I have been, I guess, because I've read that a bunch of times and I never even saw that. So my bad.
Doesn't mean we can't go forward from here with a better plan.
Right, absolutely. And Lang Street has been looked at on in several different committees for a dog run. So that we should probably push this off to the council to get that moving.
You're talking about the Lang Street, the vacant area? The lot, the park that's there?
Yes,
That might be something good to break ground there. Might be a good idea.
It takes a lot of money to put in parking and ADA and so forth. The money we've had are dedicated to Rudy Park and Franklin Park. So that's next on the list. There are grant writers out there looking at park grants. We've already received 170,000 in park grants for the Franklin Circle and Rudy Park projects. So that would be next on the list. I do have the plan from the Strategic Planning Committee. Mandisa and I spoke about it at length more than once with Jennifer Coyle and with John Freeman. And yes, there's a description of Botanical Park and walking and dog park, a good description for that park. I've also spoken to the property owner that lives on Washington and owns the property adjacent to it. So that's on the to-do list, but it's an expensive endeavor, so.
So can we charge the council, or not the council, California Consulting to pursue more grants on parks?
Well, they are. They're watching that. There's
Okay.
been a lot of news lately about Prop 68 money going to parks. So we've got an eye on that. We would need a design rather than a list of amenities desired. We need to hire a landscape architect and do much like we did for the Luck Park master plan and make sure that everything's in the right place and the right things are in the right people's backyards, that type of thing. A lot of the grants need to be shovel ready and we're not there yet.
Can we just put grass and cyclone fence on each side? One side for the big dogs, and one side for the little dogs? And poop bags in the garbage can and call it a day? Do we have to hire a agency?
I have to protect the city's liability. That's my responsibility. And so I need to create a safe environment
So
for our citizens.
Could we talk to the lawyer first and then, instead of you hiring somebody?
Can we focus, please? We're talking about parks now. I'm sorry, I only have so much time tonight and I would really love to get to the end of this, please. I know we're talking about unleashed dogs, now we're talking about parks. Please.
Okay, moving right along. We'll put parks on the next one for unleashed dogs. PG&E, November 16, 2021, City Council presentation.
I'm not going to tee up this slideshow. I just wanted to let the commission know that this meeting is available online. And PG&E did bring their person who focuses on the maintenance of the power poles and insulators in our city. At the presentation on page 4, they show equipment spraying down the power poles. They were supposed to be in our town in December, spraying these down. That's what we were promised at our November City Council meeting. And it explains in those slides why it's necessary to clean them. And basically after such a drought period of 18 months or at least a year of no rain, that a lot of stuff collects on tops of these things. And then during the first rain that happens, you have 2 or 3 of them short out. We had 3 power poles related fires in less than a week. One of them was caused by a car accident, but another was caused behind the school. At least that's what the fire chief says was the cause of the fire behind the school in September, I believe it was. And then we had one catch fire downtown near Abbey Park. So that's one of the main reasons we asked PG&E to come, was to talk about the safety of their equipment in our town. And then they also described later in that presentation undergrounding and trying to underground utilities and get away from power poles altogether. So that's the ultimate goal. And this was on the path of travel at our last meeting. And so I wanted to share this with the committee tonight and encourage you to see that presentation from them. And if you have any other questions, we have a government contact and her name is Jenna, and I can reach out to her. And if there are any specific questions, and get back to the committee on that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns on that?
It's one thing on the power lines. The other one is going to be, those are going to be for high fire severity zones. Be nice if we fell into that only because of that, but we don't want to fall into it because then we probably wouldn't get in our homes. So, and it's a big project that PG&E hasn't quite looked into much. But that's just so you know, it's going to be for areas like, Carmel Valley and, the Santa Cruz Mountains, stuff like that, high fire severity zones.
Mhm. Right, yeah, yes, the big undergrounding campaign was specifically for the tier 3, level 3 fire zones.
Thank you very much. Dedicated city deputy status.
So I shared the email between the sheriff and I, trying to get on top of when that can happen. And the last thing he says is we'll make it happen ASAP. And so I, like Scott, got my fingers crossed that happens in January. It's on the top of his list. So I think this committee did a great job, and we got a resolution approved by the council, and we're on our way. Sorry, it takes a long time to recruit people. He's paying a 10% incentive, which is really good to know. But I'm told that there are plenty of willing and able candidates, so we just need to get through a selection process and make it happen.
Right, and that's going to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and during special events, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or however that event works, they'll shift over that way.
Right, it's flexible, but it's mostly during the busiest times of our downtown.
Yep. Rachel?
I have a question on this dedicated deputy that hopefully we'll get in January. When Sheriff Taylor spoke to us, I think he was our first speaker a few months ago, he said that he was recruiting and training. So does that mean that that has happened already and we might get somebody in January?
Right, that's my understanding, Rachel.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody else?
Yeah,
Anybody else? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, just full disclosure. I sent Dawn a text. I got a couple phone calls from some folks in town because there was a deputy in town a couple times more than you see normally did. And that specific deputy has some kind of how do I put it? A bit of a troubled past in town with some from some of the locals. And there was a big concern that deputy had become our dedicated deputy. And that's the only reason I asked Dawn about it, is if we'd have one assigned. And I had some concerns about that specific deputy also. So that's kind of why Dawn got this kind of a cryptic email from the sheriff. Like, I got a strange text message from, that's the only reason I think that some of this popped up. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Path of travels, ideas yet to be addressed, school superintendent as a guest speaker, safety of sidewalks, 911 netcom, healthcare for seniors. And anything else we want to add? Anybody have anything they really want to talk about? Go ahead.
I got a comment from a community member. They're having trouble with the feral cats on 6th Street. And apparently this person has contacted the city and felt that they weren't getting much help. And so I don't know if that's something that we can discuss or not. Feral cats are actually the concern is a health problem because of all what they leave behind. Again, it's the same thing. And that was the concern of that resident.
So maybe we can bring on the city of Hollister, the police department, and ask how we can work with their
Animal control.
Thank you very much, David. Animal control. I know
I don't
Marina.
think they're gonna help us.
I
think
well,
they're
like
sick and
anything
they're-
else, you give a little bit of cash and
Yeah,
perhaps
well,
move over. Marina and Eric have a program where they spay and neuter, but then they put them right back out into the community. And people are feeding them, so this happens. So I don't know, Don, can we have a conversation with the city of Hollister?
Yes. Yeah, they just went through some leadership changes in terms of animal control. So now it's probably a good time to follow up with the chief.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay.
Scott, anything for the future?
No, healthcare for seniors. Is that something we should have on a public safety committee, or is that something more for like a maybe a community reach type of thing? I'm just wondering if that's something we can actually cover. I mean, I get the whole health and safety stuff.
Again, I tried to explain that the reason I brought it up was there was concern by certain people in the public that there was plans to have some kind of a center for seniors. And this was assistant care. And some of the plans that were thought of then, and there was some actual assistant care facility going in, like at the Nyland House up on the hill.
Mhm.
There was something going on there, and there was also plans at the entrance of the city that they were going to build a new facility for assistant care for the elderly. And I've had people asking me if there was any future plans for that, whether that comes under safety or healthcare. I'm not sure, but that's the reason why I brought it up.
We could probably push on the safety side,
Yeah.
to push the county to add another paramedic in the county.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to add that giant, 55 and over facility there at San Juan Oaks, but they didn't add another ambulance. There's only 2 paramedics in this entire county.
Yeah.
So it's tough to try to welcome in a senior community into your community when we can't guarantee an ambulance is going to be there at a safe time. That's maybe something we can squawk about. Let's get more, EMS out there. I don't know. So I understand what you're saying, David. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing too, that which would be nice to talk more about, we're supposed to be a walkable type of town. You should be able to walk everywhere and anywhere. What about our sidewalks? It just seems like as we fill in, as we continue to develop out and beyond our city limits and what have you, in the future, within the city itself, there's a lot of work that needs to be when it comes to sidewalks, or at least a pathway, and some of the properties throughout town. Is that something we could also put in our agenda to talk about, plus the fact that we are getting some federal help when it comes to infrastructure from the government and things like that. Even when we put in, I believe we're still talking about putting in a new downtown Main Street, getting out all that done. While we're doing all that, can we talk more about putting in safe and good pathways throughout San Juan Bautista? That's when it comes to safety, that's what I think about too. Not to mention traffic control.
So we're about to launch a robust community engagement process for what's known as an active transportation plan. That's coming out in January. We've selected the consultant team and we're ready to go with that. That'll include an assessment of the ADA accessibility and the general condition of our sidewalks. So that's all tied up, and that's a big, huge study, a $200,000 plan that we're putting together. So that's rolling out first part of next year.
Great, thank you.
Cool. Go
I
ahead,
do.
Yolanda.
Don, you guys, put a cyclone fence around, did we, the city, put a cyclone fence around Alameda? The Alameda, did we put that fence up or did the customer?
No, came to our attention, an engineer's structural report on that building, came to the planning department's attention and building official. So they followed up and the owner of the property was required to put that fence up after the building
Okay.
was red tagged.
Could we have one for the Victorian house across Valero's be red tagged and have them put a fence around it? Because I remember on the when Scott was on there and I didn't know that we can make them put a fence around it. That even the guy said the kids were vandalizing that home across the street from the Valero where the older people lived. Can we start red tag? If we red tag, can we demand them to put a fence around these homes that are uninhabitable and that are going to be red tagged or are red tagged?
Yes, there are 3 or 4 properties in town that we're looking at closely. The nuisance properties like that the property owner needs to take responsibility for.
Yeah.
But you're referring to the Chalmers house? You're referring to that?
No, not the Is that the Chalmers house?
Yeah.
Scott, across Valero's? I don't know whose house it is.
Yeah, it's well, supposedly it's the Chalmers house. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a great idea, though.
Yeah, we need to start. I really liked what happened when it was red tagged and a cyclone fence went up. We really need to do that. Because I know across the street from or kitty corner to the street, you guys put up a fence for the older lady. I don't know, I can't think right now. But there was a cyclone fence around that garage that was dilapidated with a mobile home right across the street from the yard. You know who I'm talking about? Scott, what's your name?
Kitty corner of the park. David, is that Mrs. Lopez that has that place right there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we and that's dangerous. There's kids there, but I really liked what the city did there, so that's good.
yeah.
That's the only thing I have to say.
Okay, we could talk further about that nuisance properties and because it definitely is a safety issue. Okay, next meeting, January 17th.
That's a holiday.
What?
Martin Luther King's, I think.
Okay.
Just occurred to me.
It's a what? It's a
Martin
holiday?
Luther King.
Martin Luther King.
MLK Day.
And I'll bet my wife has plans.
The boss.
Okay.
Any thought, we can meet before or after, or not meet in January. What's your preference?
So the 10th or the 24th?
Yeah.
Any preference out there, folks? All in favor for the 10th? All in favor for the 24th?
That works better for me.
Okay, January 24th, 4 p.m.
Oh, I might be at the SHOT Show. Oh, never mind. I might be in Vegas, but it's okay.
Not a problem.
We'll join you. Let's have the meeting in Vegas.
Let's go.
I'm in.
Just zoom in.
Okay, great. I think we have our agenda set for our January 24th meeting. Thank you all. Have a happy holiday.
Happy holidays.
Be sane.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Thank you. Happy
Christmas.
holiday.
Thank you.